You gentlemen are making a big mistake.
This here is Mr. Thurgood Marshall. Man is an attorney. You will treat him with the respect that he deserves.
Some of my favorite scenes were the courtroom scenes. How challenging was that for you as an actor to talk through Josh and kind of just give us more about the physicality for you?
It's very difficult. Very, very. In fact, like, when I read the script initially and I saw that I didn't have the great courtroom speeches,
Yeah.
The best I have is actually the speech at the end when I'm telling him how to do it.
Right.
And in one version of that, I actually give the whole speech, and then he gives the whole speech in the courtroom, and they cut it together. That's not necessarily how it was written; it's how we ended up doing it. But when I initially read it, I was like, I was gonna call Reggie. It was like, hey, where's my courtroom speech? It's like I'm playing Thurgood Marshall. What's going on
Right.
here? Like,
I need something dynamic.
yeah, like what's happening? And I realized that it was actually the best thing for the movie to have to win the fight with your hands, figuratively tied around your back.
It's probably more challenging in a way.
Yeah, and to me, that's the conceit. It's like okay, well, this is the great challenge of this film. Can Thurgood Marshall win a case without talking? And if he can, then he's even greater than we thought he was. And the great thing about it is that this is a true story. This is what really happened.
Right.
So, for me, it became a thing of how do you remain the hero? How do you remain a protagonist? How do you remain the lead of the movie? And how are we going to shoot those scenes so that the nonverbals were as loud as the verbals?
What did you learn most about Thurgood that surprised you?
That testicle story.
Yeah.
I don't think I can name anything that's more surprising than that. Not just that it exists, but that he would tell it.
Right.
And because he could be lying. He could just be saying it to try to make you wonder, And so there's a lot of different ways to play that scene. Like, you could play it like, is he serious right now? Or you could play it like,
I wasn't sure too.
Yeah, well, when we were reading it, we were like, do we put this in? Because at one point it wasn't in the movie.
Right.
And so it became a question of, should we do it or not? Is it true? Who can confirm this? Because nobody can confirm this but, the women that
had the experience.
Yeah. So it became a thing of, let's put it in regardless, because it tells you something about him that he would tell that story.
I love that we get to see the Martins at the end of the film. I'm
glad you noticed that.
Yeah, of course. It's right away. Talk about why you chose to do this film, considering what's going on in the world today.
The doing the film and considering what's going on in the world, I don't know if I made that connection, because it takes place in 1941. There's always going to be a sense of, the past speaking to the present. I obviously knew that, but there was no way we could know that we were going to put the film out at this particular time. In fact, we thought we would be putting it out during the Obama administration as he was leaving the White House. The plan was to have a White House screening there. In this particular case, it was too soon. It was too soon to the movie wasn't done yet. We had to wait till now. And so now a lot of things have happened.
Yeah.
So there was no way of knowing that we would be in this particular climate. But I'm glad that this movie now exists, so that it can speak to this time. And you choose the film because it's a great film. Whether or not it comes out at the right time, that's really up to God.
It is.
And the producers.
Who's cutting the check? Congratulations.
Yeah.
One thing I found interesting was the scenes where it shows the real scene, where it shows like her version of the scene.
Sure.
Talk about the challenge of doing both.
Oh, man. Good question. It was really interesting for both Kate and I because Reggie decided that we were going to shoot her version of the events first, and her version was the rape account. And I was really sort of shocked in my soul what it felt like to even pretend to take advantage of a woman in that way. it was like both Kate and I were really sort of uncomfortable. And I'm happy that I was uncomfortable, because you shouldn't be comfortable assaulting a woman, right? So I was very happy to get that over and done with, because that's the closest I ever want to come
Right.
to being that way with a woman, you know? And then we got to make sweet love. And making sweet love is way better than pretending to take advantage of someone in that way. But it was really interesting because Eleanor Strubing, in real life, I believe, had to go to a mental institution after this whole thing was done.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the tremendous amount of duress of lying, trying to maintain that lie, and ultimately being found out, and then going back to a situation where she was being abused herself with her husband. It was such an interesting turn of events, because you find yourself, we did a lot of improv too, because there was some stuff on the script, but then we just had to act it out, and her stepping up onto the bridge to jump, and me just trying to keep her alive. And at the end of the film, what I found most intriguing is that here's an African-American man who is found to be innocent, not guilty, but this woman has to go back into this situation. And this black man has pity for her. And I thought that that was kind of a lovely thing to end on. That, like, I recognize that even though I get freedom, I still have to find my way into the world in which I've admitted to being with a white woman, and you still have to go home to a husband who knows that you've been unfaithful, who has been abusive. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You yourself in the film go through an emotional roller coaster. How was that for you doing that personally?
You know what? Let's see. It is what it is, but it was sometimes exhausting. This character was interesting because he's so dishonest.
Right.
But he has a reason. Like, he has a justifiable reason for keeping the truth to himself. Until he ultimately, Thurgood says, like, look, if you don't tell the truth, we can't win this case.
Right.
And so even though his truth means to him on a personal level that he could be risking his life, his truth ultimately sets him free. So to live with a lie throughout the course of the whole film, that was an intriguing thing that I had never had the opportunity to do before.